Welcome to Straight Outta Crampton. This episode is called Why Me God? Things were bad in the motor trade. I didn't seem to be making any headway. To make things worse, it was the time of year when sap was dripping off the trees and it was all over my used car display. If you don't get sap off quickly, pollen and dust would soak in and the mixture would almost be impossible to get off. I'd also dislocated a bone in my wrist a few weeks earlier. As you can see, still not right 30 years later. And it was so painful that I'd just been laying on the settee in my office watching TV. As always happened when I wasn't too busy, my brain had gone into limp mode and I couldn't be bothered to do anything. However, today would be different. I had to get my act together and make something happen. I was in a great mood and no one was going to spoil it. I focused my attention on a silver Ford, which had got the worst of the sap. The fallen leaves had stuck to it and it was so dirty you could hardly see it as it was camouflaged against the background of the trees. I had like a ghillie suit on. Getting this vehicle back to showroom condition was my project for the day. I was working next to Lancer Valeter because lately it was such an unusual occurrence to see me doing anything. He just asked me what was wrong. Had my TV broke or something. We were both laughing when we heard a horrible soulful moan, the type you let out when an England match goes to penalties. The moan came from behind one of my cars on the pitch. We could see a guy talking into a mobile and crying. He was howling, almost like a dog. I looked at Lance and said, ignore him, and with a bit of luck, he'll go away. He didn't go away, and because he was on my section of the pitch, it was deemed that I, by default, had drawn the short straw, and it was me who had to go and speak to him. For those of you who don't know me, I don't think I can be described as a sensitive type, and I had enough of my own troubles anyway. I didn't want to hear about any of his. And I didn't want to get involved, so I just said, "Oi, mate, you can't sit there. You're frightening my customers off and making the place look untidy." That just seemed to make him worse, and he set off howling again. I turned to the rest of the guys who were all watching from the workshop, shrugged my shoulders as if to say, if that didn't cheer him up, I don't know what will. "Come on, mate, surely things can't be that bad. Or are you in the motor trade too?" I asked. He let out another howl and said, "I'm waiting for my tablets to work." "Oh, have you got a headache?" Fearing an answer I didn't want, and sure enough I got it. "No, I've taken an overdose. I'm going to kill myself." "Not here, you're not. For fuck's sake, why have you chosen my pitch?" I asked. Well, I was furiously dialing 999. I grabbed his shoulder and shouted at him, "What have you taken? How long ago and how many?" 52 paracetamols half an hour ago. That's a strange number, I thought, and started calculating the permutations in my head, concluding that as you can only buy them in packs of 8 or 16 over the counter, he must have bought 3 cartons from different shops and had 4 left over. Otherwise, surely he'd have taken 64. There was also a half-drunk can of Iron Brew besides him. And again, my mind wandered, thinking, why would you choose Iron Brew as your last ever drink? His eyes were starting to shut and his head had dropped to his shoulder. I feared he was going into a coma. Now, even though I say so myself, I'm pretty good in a crisis. You have one nearly every day in the motor trade, so it becomes second nature not to panic. I'd always thought the thing to do was to make people who had taken an overdose sick before the tablets could totally dissolve in the stomach. So I barked my orders. "Lance, get a glass of salt water quick." "We haven't got any salt," he said, but I was like a well-oiled machine. "Go to the drawer in my desk. There's a load of those sachets that you get in boxes of KFC." It was taking an age to get through to the emergency services. I hoisted the guy onto my shoulder and I tried desperately to make him walk, knowing that it was important not to let him lose consciousness. Fortunately, the emergency services answered and were taking all the details. They dispatched the police and ambulance services. I asked if I should make the guy sick. I was told not to do anything, just wait for the paramedics to arrive. which was a good job because Lance was struggling with the salt sachets and my new mate was getting heavy. I shouted to Lance, "Leave that, come and help me." Take his other arm and help me march him round the forecourt. The guy was starting to get very cold and clammy, but he was sweaty. I had my overalls on, so I was all right. Lance wasn't so lucky, and I saw him grimace as the guy's armpit touched him. We marched him up and down, trying to keep him talking. Again, his head sagged to one side. And I said to Lance, "Lance, we can't let him die. Can you imagine the headlines in the local paper? Man commits suicide at Barrie Crampton car sales. Everyone will think I pendled him, forced him into a sale, and he'd rather kill himself than take delivery of one of my cars." "What have you done that's so bad you want to kill yourself?" I asked. His answer just made me want to put him back where I'd found him and let him get on with it. However, he did say he'd been accused, not that he'd actually done it. But still, I thought to myself that if this was just a cry for help, he'd better hope that the ambulance got here quick, as I won't be giving him the kiss of life anytime soon. The police and ambulancemen arrived, and it turned out that this guy was well known to them. They took over, and as far as I know, he survived. I hope he was innocent of the crime that he'd been accused of, because I wouldn't have lifted a finger to help him otherwise. Except perhaps to get him some more tablets, or give him Jack Kevorkian's number. As he carted him off, I said to Lance, he was lucky we heard him, because he'd chosen a Renault began to top himself behind, and they didn't exactly fly off the shelves. By the time I saw that thing, we'd have just found a skeleton clutching a mobile phone and a can of iron brew. 5 police cars and an ambulance attended. One of the other policemen had noticed a car I had for sale and returned at the weekend to buy it. All my advertising had come to nothing that week, and the only customer who was in the market for one of my cars was also on duty and called to the incident on my forecourt. I hadn't read my horoscope that morning because I never ever read them. But even so, I wondered how many planets needed to align to cause a chain of events like that to occur and me sell a car. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Bye bye.